Have you ever seen that comedian talk about? He's a stand-up comedian. They were talking about him doing a show in Atlanta, and everybody around him was like, "Man, Atlanta's dangerous. Like, why are you going to Atlanta to do the stand-up show?" And was like this, and he's like, "Man, I was raised in Florida. Like, we're only one flood away from having alligators in our backyard. Like, people get shot on every corner. Like, there's hurricanes. The deadliest snakes in America. Like, every time you step outside in Florida, you could potentially die."
It's not that big.
It's Australia of the USA.
Not to mention all the crazies.
All the crazy people, yeah. And I think he mentioned that. He was like, there was a guy that ate bath salts a couple years ago and then chewed off somebody's face. Like, I don't know if you've heard about Florida.
Florida's a wild place. Now, the tourist areas aren't so bad, I don't think. But, like,
I mean, unless you go, like, Miami's pretty rough. And it's pretty
Never
touristy.
been to Miami. My brother went to Miami.
I want to do Miami pretty bad, but, I mean, I'm not going to get anywhere that's going to get me in trouble, though.
Right.
So.
They went for a Dolphins game, I think. I think that's because his mother-in-law is a huge Dolphins fan, so they went and did that.
Did you watch the Raiders play the Dolphins?
I think that's what it was.
I figured that's probably what it had to be to get them there. I'll be honest. I'm a big enough NFL fan. I've been to several games of. I'm a Pittsburgh fan, and I've been to several games in Atlanta just to watch NFL football.
Yeah,
that Pittsburgh wasn't playing in. So.
Did you hear about what's the small league that has a Birmingham team?
Oh, the USFL.
Was it USFL? Mm-hmm. They went to a lot of those games.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really cheap ticket and a really good time, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I heard. They said they really enjoyed it. They really got into it. Yeah, but I never went.
I feel like I've heard, maybe because we have a local team, but I feel like I've heard more in their off-season football too. If you didn't know, they run in the spring instead of in the fall. I heard more about the USFL than I did about the XFL, which I don't know what that says about The Rock and his new endeavor, but...
I think it's just that they haven't done anything. Have they even had a season yet?
Yeah, they've just played a whole season. Exactly. That's my...
I didn't even hear anything about it. Is it televised?
We may have a local bias because we don't have an XFL team.
Right.
Yet. So they didn't bring the Birmingham Bolts back like they did several other teams. So, yeah, it was televised, but I don't remember...
What was it televised on? Was it ESPN?
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't fucking catch one.
I didn't either. I didn't even know they had a full season.
I'll tell you, this is Zach's rant before his rants. I've said, if you know me, you've heard me say this before. The best thing the USFL and the XFL can do is, and actually it'd be great for college football too, because all these old fuckers that are complaining about NIL. Are you familiar with what NIL is?
Vaguely, but
so basically, a football player can make money off of his own name, image, and likeness. Right. There's NIL, right? Which is completely fair because as a musician that was on scholarship at UNA, like I could go cut my own record and play my own gigs and make my own money independently of the university. So if everybody else on the campus on scholarship can do that, why shouldn't a football player be able to do that? I mean, it's
because there's too much money in it for them.
It's so I support NIL. That's not the issue. But for all the old fuckers that are bitching about NIL, these kids want to make money. Let the XFL and USFL be a farm league for the NFL and let them draft out of high school. Most of those kids that are getting big NIL deals would go play professional football right out of high school and bypass the NIL, and then all you old fuckers have it your way, and then we have a better product in the USFL and XFL.
Right.
Because you have young people playing the sport instead of washed up ex-pros playing the sport.
Makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me, yeah, but...
But what do we know?
But what do we know?
We don't have the money.
That's something that fan opinion really should...
Right.
It should matter more than it does, because we're the ones that... they're like minor league baseball does really fucking well. Like... The Barons and the Trash Pandas do pretty fucking good. Like they have really good turnouts at games, and it's a fun experience for people. There's no reason why there shouldn't be a cheap ticket and a good night out for a football fan too.
Right.
But they all want to rival the NFL. That's the wrong fucking mindset.
Yeah,
it's never gonna fucking happen because the product's not as good.
Yeah, the NFL is like so huge at this point that I don't know what you could do to even get to there, because they're so closely tied to.
You undercut them in college, and you act as a farm system and say an 18-year-old's going to get a 3 or 4 year rookie contract. When he's done with his rookie contract, if he's good enough to go, now you can't go to college after you played professionally, but if you're good enough to go play in the NFL or CFL, you go do that.
And if not, you stay where you're at.
You stay where you're at, and you just play your rest of your
contract,
professional career in USFL or XFL.
Right.
Makes sense to me. All right, that's the rant before the rant, and. the sneaky bit of content that we're doing before we start the actual podcast is the actual recipe for what we're drinking. So today I made a beer cocktail, which is essentially, I did an IPA, we did a shandy for you, but what I did was I made a tequila old fashioned, which is 3 ounces per drink, 3 ounces of tequila, an ounce of simple syrup, and orange bitters. And I made 2 of those. I shook it up, poured it, and we got to have a tall glass. You pour it in a tall glass and it fills up about half the glass, and you fill the rest of the glass up with some type of citrusy beer. So you got a lemon shandy. I got a double IPA. And it's fucking delicious.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's surprisingly fucking good, and it's completely off the cuff and just fucking made up. So, like, y'all try that.
For sure.
It's really, really good. Different experiences between mine and his. His has a much lighter beer on it, so his tastes less herbally. Mine almost has like a Christmassy vibe, where his is very summery. So, just depends on the beer you use. It's good though. Try it.
So that means you can also alter it to your taste buds.
Yeah, you absolutely could.
Just depending on the beer that you choose.
Exactly. That's the rant before the rant, and the recipe before the rant too.
So we're going on some rants this episode, huh?
I don't know, maybe.
I mean, I definitely think the topic will be a little ranty, but not. I don't know, maybe not terribly.
Apparently, I have a strange way of making all topics a little ranty.
That's fair. That is something that people have probably noticed at this point. I definitely have noticed, but
it is what it is.
I'm in for it. I'm in for the ride on the whole thing. So, I was going to say a word, but I can't think of it now. So, welcome to the Sip It and Rip It podcast, guys.
Welcome.
That was bad timing. But
we're not. It's not the Toke It and Rip It podcast. I swear, I'm not taking a big hit off a bong or anything before I do the introduction. Although that could be a new episode for a new day. You know, if we ever want to shift. You know
I can't say I can partake in that personally, but I'm not going to stop you from.
I mean, I'm not going to. Nobody. This is going to end up in another rant. I've never been a recreational stoner, man. I don't know how anybody can fucking just get high and operate normally.
I've known a few.
I've known plenty. I've known
quite
plenty,
a few, honestly. In my family, but rest in peace.
I mean, I've never been able to do that, dude. Especially this new shit's so fucking strong. The only thing I want to do is eat and go to sleep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Do gummies recreationally?
I do gummies to go to sleep sometimes, but I've cut that out since Sandy's been pregnant.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not to mention, if you didn't know this is important for powerlifters. Is it Joe Sullivan or Dr. Lane that's talked about this before?
Probably both.
Marijuana has a weird way of messing up your fight or flight system. So it can while it enhances recovery, it can negatively impact how your nervous system responds to heavy weight. And what I noticed during prepping in particular is the day after I'd taken a gummy or smoked or something like that, I felt really lethargic in the gym and everything felt a little heavier in the gym. So even though you're getting the benefits of extra sleep and deeper sleep out of it, there is some negative return too. I would say if you're going to do it as a powerlifter, make sure you do it the night before a rest day.
Yeah. I was about to say do it on rest days, or like maybe if you're doing
you'd want to do it the night before a rest day. That way you have that effect on a rest day and not on the day you're lifting.
Or an active recovery day where you're just like doing some walking or some cardio.
Yeah, absolutely. But you don't need to do it when if you got an RPE 10 single, 4 weeks out from a meet, you probably don't need to do it the night before you do that. So
that makes sense to me. I couldn't tell from experience.
Well, I can. Absolutely is the truth. But I feel like either Joe or Lane have talked about that before.
I feel
maybe
like
you can confirm with Joe one day. But
yeah. I feel like I know Joe has talked a lot before about the side effects of marijuana with lifting. I feel like Lane Norton has too, though. So
I can tell you, it makes me wonder how, after having done it a pretty good bit, it makes me wonder how Brandon Allen squat that immaculate fucking 10-16 or 10-18, walked it out of the monolift, and at the time he was a professional powerlifter. He's actually 100% clean now. By the time he was a professional powerlifter, I have never seen somebody that smoked more pot than that guy.
I believe
it. I have no fucking idea how. And I understand why, because of that load and the level at which he did it, he was probably had chronic pain all the time. So I can imagine it probably helped significantly.
Right.
But fuck. When I tell you it really fucks up your fight or flight system, it does, man. I don't know that it's worth it.
Maybe
personally.
maybe it was just adaptation at that point. Maybe he was just so used to it.
Tolerance.
Yeah, tolerance.
My tolerance has always been pretty low because I've never used it recreational. I've always used it. It's cheesy to say I've always used it pretty much medicinally, but I've always helped me either to help me sleep or like if I use it recreationally, maybe a little while before like a big meal.
Yeah.
Like I remember me and Sandy and Elizabeth one time did charcuterie boards, and I took some before that. That was awesome. But the only thing that's going to do after you get done eating, the only thing it's going to do is put you to sleep. So it ends up being recreational in context anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. I've never been one of those guys that can do it at 11 a.m. and go to work.
Oh my God, dude! There's so many people.
That can do it.
Like, I swear, like walking from the parking lot to the front door, I smell it all the time. There's one dude came in. He just was like, I was standing about.
That's supposed to be a drug-free area too, by the way.
Oh yeah, for 100%. I was standing a little further away than I am from you right now, and I could smell it just strong coming off. He literally was probably in his car smoking it and just basking in it for like 30 minutes.
Let's call it a hot box.
Yeah. So he came in, and what gets me is that there were all 3 security guys and the security manager right there, and they just let him walk in. And I was like, bro, I know you can smell this because I can smell it too.
Legally, unfortunately, it's probably one of them things that like they can't really do anything about it until he does something about it.
Yeah.
He fucks up at work and has to be drug tested or something like that. Like,
it probably
because
is.
like what happens on your property and in your time, it's your property and your time, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. Kind of shitty, but it is what it is.
It's just one of those things like, man, I don't know if that's safe though.
It's probably not, but that's the reason why they drug test after an accident.
Yeah.
So,
true.
It is what it is.
Very true.
But anyway, that's another rant. We're 3 rants deep.
Yeah, already. We didn't mention our socials, but just go ahead. You can find me at Nathan Skedios.
And me at ZG_Summer Shred Journey, which is still liable to change.
Yeah.
How about you can find me at Coleman_Barbell.
Yeah.
Professional account. There you go.
There you go. You can just start plugging that.
Yep. Let's start plugging that. Yep.
And then the podcast at Sip It and Rip It with an N, not an and. Sip it and rip it.
Y'all did help us determine that the Last Supper would make a better tramp stamp than the word classy would. I appreciate that. Nathan thought I was going to go get that tattoo after it polled, but I'm not.
I said you should. I definitely said
I
you
said
should.
I should not.
That's why I voted for the Last Supper on my personal account.
Dude, the Last Supper would have been that. I bet that would be, honest to God, you couldn't get that done in one sitting. I bet it would be.
It'd be
a 3
multiple.
or 4 sitting.
Yeah.
And it would be a lot of money to have a tramp stamp of Jesus.
You'd have to find somebody.
If there was ever anything that guaranteed a path to hell, it would probably be a tramp stamp of the Last Supper.
Probably so. But,
You know what's kind of funny about the Last Supper? There's another rant. They wasn't necessarily rich men, right? Like they were basically vagabonds, like moved city to city and stuff like that, right? What the fuck are they doing eating that dinner in that photo? I'm not saying that's where they actually ate it, but in that painting, what the fuck are they doing eating in that fucking like righteous like
like it's super nice looking?
Like they got invited to fucking Caesar's Palace and they're like fucking eating at the nicest conference room.
I think I think that is just artist rendition. Artist rendition. It's
interpretation.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's all very like Romanesque and very like, well, those guys were trying to kill him. I doubt that he was eating somewhere like that.
It was probably up in some shack. Let's be honest.
On a fucking park bench or a picnic table somewhere.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, in their times, realistically, like there was probably somebody's house. I couldn't tell you the story off the top of my head. Probably they were in somebody's house, upstairs in somebody's attic.
And nobody would be sitting facing the same direction.
No, it would definitely not be this like big that. Table, and they're like,
waving at each other from a distance. You know what I mean?
Like. Yeah, it would definitely have been more like sitting across stuff.
You heard it here first. Da Vinci's a fuck up.
Art's good, but
genius my ass. Well,
so
that's 4.
So we just said social. So drinks.
Drinks. Yeah, we got a. If you want the recipe, you'll have to listen to all the bullshit at the beginning. Or we still don't know if we're going to bank those and save them for an entire episode or not, but we may do that.
I definitely think we're going to do something with them. I haven't clipped them off yet, but I've got all the stuff saved. So.
Basically, though, this is a beer cocktail. It is a tequila old fashioned topped with a citrusy beer of your choice. I chose a double IPA. Nathan's got a lemon shandy.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it was tangerine.
Tangerine shandy. My bad.
But same.
But anyway, a super light beer, super citrusy.
Yeah.
It is what it is. There is a little bit of pineapple juice on top of this just to help sweeten it up a little bit, but that's to taste. Y'all do it if you want to.
Yeah.
So.
I definitely feel like when I sipped the top of it, all I got was that, beer, kind of beery, light beery, and I didn't really taste much. And then when we got the straws in there and I got to the bottom of it,
Much better cocktail.
much better.
I'm also a fan, and this is a kind of a cocktail no-no in a way, but I'm actually a bigger fan of when the drink dies a little bit, and what it means when it dies is when the ice melts basically and it's diluted. Right. But these stronger drinks, I'm actually a little bit bigger of a fan when it has a little bit of water on top of it too. It seems like it
kind of
melts it
absorbs
out.
some
Now,
of
the issue in a bar is if it starts to die before you get it served, then maybe it's too watery by the time somebody's drinking it or something. But like, I actually appreciate it as I drink it getting slightly watered down, if that makes sense.
I get you. Yeah, I don't mind it at all. That's why my go-to drink, just in general, is like whiskey or rum with Coke. Coke Zero specifically. And like, I'll let it sit. I'll get it, I'll stir it all up, mix it together, and then I'll drink it. And sometimes I'll let it sit until all the ice melts, and I'll just keep drinking it. You know, like,
it's fine. That is a no-no in a bar, though, for obvious reasons. It causes customer service issues and shit like that. So if you got one professionally, you probably wouldn't want that. But at home, kind of fucking good if it dies a little bit. So
it just depends on taste, too, I guess.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. If it was a really expensive liquor, maybe I'd be pissed off about it.
Right.
But, like, we're mostly, I mean, we buy some top shelf stuff sometimes, but, like, mostly we're doing, like, $30, $40, $50 bottles of alcohol. Yeah. We're not buying... Like, this wasn't made with fucking Patron. It was made with Hornitos, which is a fine tequila, and I like it just fine. But it wasn't $100 bottle.
Right.
So,
yeah, you're not worried about wasting the $100 on it, getting a little watered down.
No. So, it is what it is. PR songs?
PR songs.
I'm actually with it today on this.
Are you? Me too, because I have several. And I'll just go ahead and start because I've already got it pulled up. And I don't know if this is it said 2023. I don't know if this is a new single or if it's something remastered, because the quality seemed a little lower than normal for them. But Carnifex put out a single called Necromantium, and it's pretty freaking dope.
I'm hit or miss on Carnifex. The things I like, and the things I hate, I fucking hate.
Yeah, it's
hot or cold all the time.
I feel like this one might be a little too deathcore for you.
And that was what I'm gonna add it to our story. That's the way that we're doing that now from now on.
Yeah. So anytime we add a song to the playlist, we're gonna try and add it to our story and just kind of give a little snippet of it.
Necromantium,
and it may or may not be on there because it's brand new. And other than that, and I don't
see.
Yes. If you're looking for the spelling, it's Necromanteum. Just like necromancer, but Tium.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah. You get a little snippet of it.
Sweet. Yeah, a little snippet of it right here on the old story. Cool.
Yeah.
We have found it.
I found it.
All right, that's the first one up.
What about you?
So mine is Breeding Ground by Harm's Way. Breeding Grounds by Harm's Way. I didn't know that they had a record from 2021. I'm still listening to the same old record from like 2018, but Breeding Grounds by Harm's Way is really fucking good. I listened to it several times today. It's fucking great.
And I feel like I've heard that song before. I feel like they released it as a single at some point. Maybe not. No, maybe I don't know.
I feel like that there was a it seemed like they would release a lot of those as singles before they put out the whole Lots
of bands have started doing that since the Spotify era. It's like pretty much COVID, I guess, 2020, when they aren't doing live shows. Because I feel like a lot of the times beforehand, give you a little listen.
Yeah, a little listen. I'm sorry. I'm posting these to our Instagram for us, so that's the reason why you're getting some of them to the mic now.
But that's
Trying to help
okay.
you out.
But that's okay. That
Yeah.
just gives them a little taste.
A little taste.
But no, I think a lot of times they would debut new songs like at live shows and stuff and get people hyped up for them. And then when COVID came about, they're like, well, we still want to play music. You know, we're still going to make music. So they would just start releasing stuff on Spotify. And I think that just kind of became the trend.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it feels
kind of
like
makes
to me.
sense for them, too. I think, I honestly think it kind of, marketing-wise, it probably makes sense for a lot of independent bands. Because all these bands are like either 100% self-financed or have a very small record label financed them. So,
but even bands like Slipknot have been doing that lately. They've been putting out a lot of singles
necessity,
on Spotify.
yeah, absolutely. But I think it's probably a little bit better for the smaller bands, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
I'll go ahead and do my second one, and it is Spheres of Madness by Decapitated.
I like Decapitated a lot.
I'll be honest with you. I heard the name. It randomly popped up on Spotify. So Spotify has this new thing where when you listen to your liked songs, if you put it on like shuffle or whatever, it will, every couple songs, it will throw out a suggestion basically. And I think I was mowing the yard and this came on and I was like, kind of fucking rips, dude. So I listened to that and I was like, I could lift to this. Like this was
Right.
dope. How old are they? Because I feel like they're like a little older. Am I crazy?
Decapitated's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Probably since the early 2000s or even late 90s, maybe.
Yeah, because I was feeling like it was late 90s death metal because that's what it sounded like to me. But
mine's an oldie but a goodie too. Right here, it is from the 2008 record Watershed, and it is Heir Apparent by Opeth.
it was a good song.
Fucking rips. That song's so good. Now this one's long-winded. I don't really always like long-winded stuff for the gym. Because I kind of just want to hear a fucking badass riff and get my lift out of the way and like maybe set on the rest of the song while I'm in between sets or something like that. And then next set's a new song, new riff. Right. So it is what it is. But Heir Apparent's awesome. Got to add it over here too. But definitely listen to that. If you don't listen to Opeth already, you should. If you're a musician of any type, even if you don't play this type of music, you definitely should be listening to Opeth.
Opeth is one of those bands. It's similar to Between the Buried and Me, I feel like, where they're very like, what's the word? Broad. Like they have a broad spectrum of sounds.
They absolutely do. I will say this though, Opeth, while it's a progressive band too, they're genius in a sense that they have a remarkable way of making really complicated things sound really simple. So if you're a musician, you'll notice. If you're not a musician, just an average listener, it's probably not going to just like blow you away. Like Between the Buried and Me is like very in your face about how out there they are.
Right.
Opeth is very, very subtle about those things. So definitely give them a listen though. It's awesome.
Yeah. If I don't really want to add more to the PR list, but like I'll just say that my favorite Opeth song is The Grand Conjuration because that song just
that song rips. I like a lot of people shit on it, but Sorceress is from a newer record is a really good Opeth song.
I haven't heard
too.
that. What year did that come out? Like
2012, 2013, probably.
Okay.
14 maybe.
What album was that?
Let me look really quick. So we're talking about the Sorceress. It's 2016.
2016.
Yeah, and hell, another one while we're on the Opeth thing is the main song from it's not the titled song, but from the album Heritage, The Devil's Orchard, which is very, you got to be like kind of a Rush fan or something like that for this. Very like 1970s prog. They got away from like the progressive death metal sound and more into like progressive, as you know. It. Like, so it is what it is. But like you said, they're very, very broad, so they can really pull anything like that off. So, man, we could talk forever. I could have a whole podcast about Opeth probably. Yeah,
they're a very talented band and just like musically just impressive.
Michael Ackerfeld, another death metal band I love that he used to sing for that he doesn't anymore is Bloodbath.
Yeah. Bloodbath is good.
Yeah, especially if you like things a little sacrilegious. Bloodbath is Bloodbath's pretty good. But yeah, Opeth, man, fucking rips.
So, are we forgetting anything?
No, I mean that's all. I mean I could probably keep going on PR songs, but two a piece is probably good, right?
So we'll get into the meat of our podcast today, which is kind of just like I kind of called it buyer beware for online coaching, but like red flags for online coaches, online programs, just stuff to look out for. Because me and you kind of talked about something, and we won't go into any specifics, but basically someone was selling a program and you bought it and you looked at it and kind of dissected it and were like, this is kind of shit, right?
It's really shit. And it's by a pretty, we're not calling anybody out because that's the last person we want heat from, but it's by a very, very talented and prominent lifter.
Right.
That also happens to have a very big mouth, which is the reason why we don't want to say specifically.
And a big total, too.
And a big total.
And does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and has several guns and is very proud of them.
He's probably very, very, very capable of driving to Alabama and killing us dead.
If he wanted to, but he probably doesn't care enough to kill us. But either way, like the program itself, just looking at it, it was just very simple, very basic, and just not something that you would typically feel like paying money for. It looked more like something you'd get off bodybuilding.com.
Yeah, I mean, honest to God, you could probably see the same amount of gains from like Wendler 531 or something.
Right.
Like that, which is fine. We've talked at length that the best program is a program you can stick to.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, that's probably a fine program.
Right.
But it's not a custom program. That's not going to address an individual's weaknesses, an individual's problems, anything like that. And listen, template program is not supposed to, but it was so general and so vague that I think it'd be hard for anybody to make gains for a long period of time.
Right. So just to kind of like start off, and I'm just going to, I wrote down a couple of things that I kind of wanted to touch on that was me personally, and you can either add in more or just kind of riff off of what I got. But one thing that really strikes me as like a big red flag before buying an online program is, do they do one-on-one coaching? And if they do not do one-on-one coaching, I don't really want to buy a program from them, because that just tells me that they're not willing to take the time to address somebody's weaknesses. They're not willing to address specificity.
Yep.
So why would I want to buy a program from this guy when it's probably going to be, like we just talked about, something really cookie cutter, really basic, that's going to apply to a broad sense of like lifting, just basic stuff. And I don't mean in the Ronnie Coleman, just basic stuff, like simple, like you do your squat, bench, and deadlift, you do your back and your biceps, just
your chest accessory work and your leg accessory work, and you're done. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I would tend to agree with that. I would say that coaches that I am willing to buy templates from and not buy direct coaching from are almost always exclusively people that do one-on-one. Yeah. Like, so for instance, I've bought RP programs before, but if I wanted to get coaching directly from Jared Feather or Dr. Mike, you can do that. Yeah. Ben Pollock has really, really good templates that are available. I don't know if Joe does or not. I don't think Joe does.
I don't think he does do program templates.
But Juggernaut has been another one. I mean, me and you were both disciples of Juggernaut. And for that matter, everybody we've hired it's not too much of a stretch from what we've done on Juggernaut, for that matter, for even the coaches that we've hired. Even when you talk about Ron, who has no affiliation with Juggernaut whatsoever, still very Juggernaut-like. Like, not saying Juggernaut's the
end all,
the peak,
be all.
But I'm just telling you that Juggernaut does enough one-on-one coaching and does enough individualized things, whether it be through AI or their actual one-on-one coaching, that they know what they're doing. Right? It just is what it is. I, for one, am about to start selling templates, but guess what you can buy from me?
One-on-one coaching.
100% customizable coaching, stuff like that. So, yeah, the issue with that is they want your money, but they don't want you as a problem.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. There's not a lot of investment in the person.
Exactly.
Because you see a lot of these people who do the online coaching one-on-one, like, I can talk specifically about Joe being a client of his. He always talks about how much he wants to further the sport and how much he wants to invest in the person. Yeah. From
as a coach, that should be your first priority, is investment in the individual.
From a personal standpoint, he has pulled my head out of my ass several times. I've come to him, I'll be like, man, this sucks. I feel weak. Like, something's not going right. And he'll be like, well, it's just going to be that way because you're not where the plan isn't to get you there right now. The plan is to fix certain things. Yeah. When you get those things fixed, then we're going to go in and work on the strength and getting where you need to be before you meet. And sometimes as a lifter, even as a seasoned lifter, I still get into that spot where I'm like, I feel like I should be stronger than I am right now.
You have to be checked in a way.
Yeah, even the most seasoned lifters, you kind of have to be checked sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what you get from one-on-one coaching, and that's what you want out of someone, whether they are just writing programs for you or you're buying a template. Someone who cares about the individual and cares about the sport. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'll tell you why it's smart as a coach like myself. Like I said, this is something I'm about to start doing on the Instagram page, the Coleman Barbell Instagram page. As a coach, the reason why it's smart to offer templates is because it's your decision as the client to determine whether or not you want one-on-one coaching or just a plan.
Mm-hmm.
If you want one-on-one coaching where I'm going to form check every day for you, write you a custom program, maybe aid in nutrition, stuff like that, that's great. Some people just don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why people are buying Juggernaut AI, RP, hypertrophy app, stuff like that, because some people they may not, either whether it's because they can't afford it or because they think they can fix things on their own. For whatever reason, there are plenty of clients that don't want the one-on-one experience. Mm-hmm. Now, whether or not I think personally everybody should have it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you want it, though, is your decision. And me as a coach, it's not my place to judge, but if I can offer you
a service
one way or the other,
mm-hmm.
I'm fine with that.
Right.
I have to make a living at this. Is I think regardless of how much money you make as a coach, and I think most coaches will tell you this, whether it's time, it's not often money, but whether it's time or whatever, you end up probably actually investing in the person, especially if there's somebody you really believe in, more than they actually pay you.
Right.
Monetarily, you know what I mean? Like, it may be time I invest in somebody that's really good. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be really good. Are they really dedicated?
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing what I asked them to?
Right.
Be a brand new lifter. Never put a barbell on their back one time in their life. And that's fair. But I mean, as the individual goes, like I spend a lot of time investing in an individual. I can't tell you how many programs I've given away. I have a guy in Decatur right now, and we should probably tag him and Joey Miller that I'm doing everything. I just waived all fees and everything for him. He's doing everything for free because I believe that guy's probably going to have one of the better drug-tested totals in Alabama.
Yeah.
So as a coach, though, you do a whole lot of investing in people, and it just behooves us and our paycheck to offer a template. That doesn't mean we don't care about you. It does mean, though, that we're willing to meet those people that don't necessarily want one-on-one coaching in the middle.
Right.
No. So.
And that kind of touches on one of the green flags I had, because I had them separated from red and green. But one of the green flags of someone who is writing a template is, are they giving away information for free?
Yeah.
There's a lot of influencers out there who offer free information for people just so that they can learn. Just like all you have to do is like listen to their podcast or watch their reels or stories on Instagram. They give away free information all the time. If this person that is offering a program for you to buy is not giving away information, that's a red flag for me, because if they're not giving away free information, is it because they're greedy and they think, oh, I don't want to give away information because then they won't pay me for it? Or is it because they don't know? They don't know enough to give out free information.
Yeah, and that is a huge red flag, because I will tell you this, and maybe this will get into something later. Just because you're a good player doesn't mean you're a good coach. Perfect example of that, going back to the football world, y'all know I'm not an Alabama fan. I fucking hate them. But best team in the world right now is University of Alabama. They're the best at it, and because Nick Saban's the best.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Saban doesn't have a Super Bowl ring as a player.
Oh, yeah.
He played at fucking Kent State. I'm not even sure how often he saw the field. He was a defensive back there. Like, he may have been a starter. I don't fucking know. Alabama fans chime in, tell me, what the deal is. I don't know. But this is not somebody that ever played for a national championship, never won the Heisman Trophy, never won defensive back trophies, never played for a national title, never went on to the NFL to win a Super Bowl ring or anything like that as a player, but he's the best goddamn coach in the world.
Right.
Like,
yeah, it is what it is.
So you do have to take a step back, because there are some people, not like Joe. Joe's a player and a coach. I mean, he knows the sport in and out. But like the person that we mentioned, aforementioned person that whose name will not be recognized
formally
on the show. But you look at that guy, like, he's one of the best players in the game right now.
Yeah.
Undeniable, 100% a fucking badass. He himself has one of the most badass coaches on the planet. If not the most badass coach on the planet. That coaching will fucking run you a pretty penny every month.
Right.
A car payment's probably cheaper.
Right.
even for like online programming with that person. So, but just because he's good doesn't mean
he can coach you.
That it doesn't mean he can coach you, and doesn't mean that he can make you good.
Yeah.
Also, if these templates are anything like the programming he's received, you have to remember this is somebody that's totaling 2,000 plus pounds. Their needs are drastically different from a beginner, intermediate, or even a lower level advanced athlete.
Yeah.
This is international elite. You're talking about somebody that deals with 800 and 900 pound back squats. They're not going to be able to tolerate the same volume that a normal person can. A lot of that goes into it. And just because he can go get strong on that template doesn't mean that you're going to go get strong on that template.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about, are they a good athlete? You have to also ask, do they also have a track record as a good coach?
Yeah. And that was another,
because Joe, when I think about Joe, like, I don't want to say that his world record back squat's an afterthought, but I don't think of Joe Sullivan as an athlete first. I think of Joe as a coach first. Yeah. It's the same thing with Chad Wesley Smith. Even when he was still active in powerlifting back in the day, the dude was outrageously strong. I don't know if I think he had like a 2,300 pound total or something. Outrageously strong. But I always thought of Chad as a coach before I thought of him because of the knowledge he gave out. Max Ada, his partner in crime, great weightlifter before he became a powerlifter, has won a lot of records in both, set a lot of records in both sports. That's another person I think of, even as good of an athlete he is, I think of him as a coach before I do. Another perfect example, and I know back in the day he probably had a handful of records that he set. Somebody that was he was above average, but not very much above average. Wasn't the best lifter, but had some of the best lifters in the game, is Louis Simmons.
Yeah.
Known, we're not conjugate people, so it's hard to say that he was one of the best coaches to ever do it, but he was in terms of innovation and stuff like that. Yeah. And had people across the board much, much stronger than him and much, much more capable than him, but he was a badass fucking coach.
Yeah. He had Mark Bell. He had Matt Winning.
Yeah.
Who are both also Mark Bell does coaching.
Vogelpohl
used to do
another
coaching.
One that's extremely, extremely strong.
But you think about Matt Winning as a coach, like he is actively a coach, and he is actively a good coach.
That's somebody that squatted 900 pounds before too, and also I think of Matt Winning as a coach before I think of him as a powerlifter, even though he set plenty of fucking records and stuff like that. I would say that you do need somebody that does both, but they don't necessarily have to be a powerlifter at a super high level.
Right. I think what it takes is a love for the sport. That's one of the green flags for me is, are they in love with the sport itself? Like, are they going to take the sport seriously? Like, how active are they in it? Whether they're an elite total, an average total, whatever, do they have a love for the sport? Because if they love the sport, they're going to want to push the sport further. And if they want to push the sport further, they're going to take the time to build something good.
Those of us who want to push the sport further, like for me, first of all, it's building a name for Coleman, as much as I fucking hate to say it, because I don't always love this town. But for Coleman and for Alabama, like, I feel like the state of Alabama, with the exception of Ron and Perseus is done now, but with the exception of Ron and Jawan Garrison,
we don't have a lot of big names.
We're not Texas, Ohio, or California.
Right.
We're not just like fucking chopping heads off, every national, international meet we go to, right? I mean, so, I do think about the advancement of Coleman and then the advancement of Alabama first. Like, Coleman's a small goal, right? Like, I've probably already done that.
I would say probably so. I think most people that are really strong in Coleman have either coached with you, like been a client of yours, or currently are a client of yours.
That's said something. And also we go and we win. And some against my peers that are much better coaches than I am, Ron, Les, people like that. It just is what it is. I'm rubbing elbows with guys that I think are legends, and that it's hard for me to say that I'm on the same level as them because Coleman doesn't have the talent pool everybody else has. But like those guys too, though, they're trying to advance the sport too. They want Alabama to be in the forefront. I think collectively, the 4 or 5 coaches in the state that are any count at all, in my opinion, I think we're all trying to do the same thing.
Yeah,
for the most part. And I think the only way to advance the sport, you have to advance the individual.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it. And I think I can tell you 100%. I know Ron's this way. I know Les is this way. I know several people are this way that are coaches in the state. Care more about the clients than they do about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Put their clients first.
Yeah.
So
I definitely,
which is incredible with how strong Ron is.
I was going to say I could definitely tell with Ron, with you and Ron, and how those your interactions together have been. And just in a general sense, he just seems very invested in the individual, much more so than himself.
So. He's very easy to talk to. I haven't coached, I haven't been a client of his for months now. Once a month I still get a text message from him. Hey man, you doing all right? How you doing up? I'm like, what's going on? Like that kind of thing. Like that's somebody that invests a lot of time. I told him this specifically after my meet, but that's somebody that if we said we were going to go fight in hell, I would absolutely pick up and go fight with that guy.
Yeah.
Like if he was involved in the military or anything like that, or any type of leadership role whatsoever, I'd follow Ron into anything.
Yeah.
If he said, "Hey man, let's go do this," I'd fucking do it.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, not a second thought about it. So I mean, that's the type of person. I think that's the type of person you want, and I think that may sum up a lot of this conversation. I know we got a lot of other things to talk about, but like, you should think about that.
Right.
Is this an individual that I would literally follow into hell?
Right. Yeah.
Because your health and your well-being is attached to this.
Right.
So,
because
not just your total.
Yeah.
But your health and your well-being is attached to it too.
Yeah, because especially for enhanced lifters, if you have somebody who's handling your PEDs or whatever, your health is literally in their hands.
Yeah.
Like if they fuck up somewhere, you could have serious health issues afterwards.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
That's another thing to consider. I would.
I've never had a coach. Ron knew what I was on and what I was doing. Brandon encouraged me to start and was one of the reasons why I started back in the day, apart from my best friend. But I have never had a coach actively criticize or tell me what I should or should not be doing in terms of anabolics. I don't know if that's a problem, and maybe with Ron, it's just that I run so little
that it's
not that big of an issue. But I personally, I don't know what Joe does with you, but I have never had a coach make a recommendation in terms of. Now, I did have Brandon one time tell me, like, hey, Trent's great and all, but, like, it's not a very reliable strength gain. Like, you're going to do better on more tests and less of other things. You know what I mean? I've had him tell me that, but, with Ron, I was like, hey, I never did the oral, but I told Ron just straight up, I'm on test and trend. Might start an oral like 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
Like, there was never any, like, coaching or back and forth about that, though.
So Joe offers where he handled all of that for you if you want all of that handled, but it's not like part of specific just the training aspect, which is all I asked from him, because I felt like I could handle my diet and everything else enough by myself, which may or may not be to my detriment, but. Initially, I really just wanted the coaching, and because I do feel like between me and you, because I've been with you a lot about my diet, a lot back and forth, and I feel like we settled on something that has enabled me to stay at the weight that I'm at roughly, and also perform well. Joe did give me some free input on macro timing, which is literally boiled down to what you should eat pre and post. Probably
high fat, high carb, low fat. Low protein, high protein, low fat, high carb stuff before and after.
Yes, he said keep the fats away from the lifts. Yeah, basically. Exactly, That's the simplest way to describe it.
That's generally the rule of thumb if you're talking about macro timing.
So me and you made some adjustments there, just like very simple stuff, just adding jelly to my toast and taking away a couple of egg yolks on my breakfast. Yeah. And then my post-workout meal is a banana, super high carb, and a protein shake, an MRE shake, super high carb. Yeah. And then I think I'm doing like a protein bar. I was doing these protein brownies from Redcon 1 and I ran out, so now I'm buying some Anabars. We'll see how
those like slap. I don't know.
Dr. Mike, Dr. Mike said number 2 on his list. Number 1 was the Snickers high protein bar. But spoilers if you haven't seen that. But you can't buy the Snickers high protein bars because they're like out of stock and they haven't restocked them, and people are reselling them for like $60 a box. And I'm like, fuck paying $60 a box for some resold Snickers bars that you don't know where have been. You know?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, back to what we were saying. Another thing that is a green flag for me is, are they open to new ideas, willing to learn? Are they doing continuing education? Do they have their own coach? All these things are green flags.
For sure.
Any coach that does not have their own coach automatically sets off some alarms, because it makes me think, well, they think they know everything.
Yeah.
They're not willing to seek out new information.
Does Joe have his own coach?
He does.
He does. That's great.
Jakey B is his coach.
That's great. Yeah.
And he does his nutrition, he does his supplements, and he does his exercise. So he's got it all covered by Jakey B, who is also supposedly a phenomenal coach, who him and Joe worked on the water cut protocol that hopefully I will get, which Joe said he just recently broke his all-time world record squat again. He said that was the reason why he felt so amazing the day of weigh-in and made weight and put that weight back on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like an insane thought to think that you could water, because everyone comes in water cut and they feel like dog shit.
Yeah.
And then the next day they get their carbs in, they get their weight back, and they feel better.
Yeah.
If you can feel like that the day of, just imagine how you can feel the day after
Right,
when you refuel.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm pretty excited to see where that goes. But yes, he does have his own coach.
But that's somebody that that was a big factor in me hiring Brandon, is the fact that Brandon was a juggernaut disciple. He was coached directly by Chad Wesley Smith.
Right.
And when somebody like that puts up, hey, coaching for X amount of dollars, I'm like, oh, well, this sounds like a value, because this guy just squatted, all-time world records with Chad Wesley Smith as his coach. And like, if that guy's going to coach me, like, big deal. But Brandon had also already been coaching quite a bit before. I tell you what, I wrote a program today. Brandon's coaching style still influences everything I do today. From the peak week every month, being like AMRAPs and stuff like that, like accessory work selection and stuff like that. There is a ton of Brandon Allen that still bled all over my programming. Yeah, for sure. And it's worked, but it's worked for every level of lifter I've ever had. So it is what it is. One thing that really stuck with me with Ron is undulating deadlifts. Like as a heavy lifter, an upper intermediate. You're advanced now. I'm still just an intermediate, but as an upper intermediate, I was having a hard time consistently deadlifting heavy, like week to week. So we started undulating. Like 1 week would be 10 sets of 1 at 365. And the next week would be pull, an RPE 10 single at whatever weight. And you got 3 or 4 down sets that got awful heavy weight. But it made me so much more capable, so much more rested by the time I had to hit that heavy one. And I still got good practice in on those singles.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really, really light singles. Stuff that me and you've pulled could probably pull. I ain't deadlifted in 6 weeks. I could probably pull that for 20 reps right now. But still, like, it's just greasing the groove and then being ready for that next thing. So, I mean, definitely a lot of Ron's programming is poured over onto me. More than anything with Ron, it's just his mindset and how he treats people that's affected me more than anything else.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, coaches that are coached, I don't know. I think Ron probably pretty much handles his own. I don't want to speak for him. He may be coached by somebody, but also, you're a high enough level lifter that coaches as a profession. I'm a little less worried about the coach thing, but that is still, pretty high on my priority.
Right.
So, are they willing to learn? I know Ron's willing to learn.
Right.
Because if you've ever seen him coach before actively at a meet, he's a student of the game. It's like playing chess with that guy. Like he thinks a meet day for him is like another level compared to the rest of us. Like I'm very much like, we have a plan. We're going to stick to the plan. If we execute the plan, we'll win. Ron's like, if he has to, he's like, fuck the plan. We're going to go win. Right. We're going to go find a way to win fucking anyway. Right.
He's going to move the pieces around where he needs to.
He absolutely will. And he's really, really fucking talented at that. So, I mean, I think that's a good point. I think that's a big green flag. Like I said, you want a coach that's coachable. If they're not actively coached, you want them actively getting
new information,
actively involved in continuing to ed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
One of the other things, I think this this finishes off the green flags is good referrals from past and current clients. If you don't have any, like, obviously, like when you're spending a lot of money, you do want to do some amount of research. You do want to do like find some of their clients. You can literally find any high level coaches, athletes, because they share them on their page all the time. And then you can just be like, hey, how's the coaching? Like, what are the ups and downs, benefits? Like, what is your perspective on this person's coaching? Very simple. Most of the time, they're going to just respond and let you know, especially if it's a good coach, they're going to push them. They're going to, anytime, like...
They want you to see they're good lifters.
Yeah.
They're not ashamed of them because they're invested in the individual.
Yeah. Like, anytime people have come to me and like, man, you got so strong. How'd you get strong? I refer them to you. I'm like, man, start with Zach. Like, he's the reason why I even got involved in the sport of powerlifting. He's the reason why I got to the point where I did very early on. Because, I mean, you know how drastic there was a transformation in only 6 months from the time I started with you to the time I competed. You know, there was several hundred pounds packed on my total in a very small amount of time. And then from there, it's just gotten better and better and better. So, you know, I always refer to you first because I do believe that you're the best coach in town. I would argue the state of Alabama. That may be biased on my opinion. I've
heard some of you say that, and I don't know that I can say that I'm Ron or Les's level yet. But I definitely don't think I'm Ron's. I will say that I do feel like there are some people that have been a bigger benefactor, and this is no shot of anybody I coach. But, like, we're in Coleman, Alabama, dude. Mm-hmm. We're in it's a baseball town, which is fine, but we're in a largely unathletic demographic.
Yeah.
And this is no shot at anybody I've coached. I haven't had, to a big degree, I haven't had a talent pool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some people have been the benefactors of a talent pool.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. I feel like Ron's in a similar situation, though, and he's one of those people, maybe like myself, that has done more with less than anybody I've seen. You know what I mean? He's really, really freaking good. I think Alabama in general, unless you're in, Metro Montgomery, Mobile, or Birmingham, there's not just this huge talent pool of people.
Yeah.
So you have, now that's not to say that the people you have can't be great. It just means that there's a bigger jump right. to be made. And not to mention, we're in a town where, we're in a bodybuilding town too. Powerlifting's largely not we're very much the minimized community around here.
For sure.
If you're not bodybuilding, you're doing CrossFit if you're in Coleman. That's like the only two sports that exist in the strength realm, right? Yeah. So it is what it is. But I mean, I definitely think that I don't think I'm on their level, but I definitely think that I can go and ruin a Saturday morning for them. And I'm happy to do it for right now.
Well, I mean, and you take me for example, and I won't go as far as to say as I'm your biggest accomplishment, but you take someone like me who came to you with 275 pound squat, 285 pound bench, which was good for my weight, and a 385 deadlift. What's that like? It's sub 1,000 pounds. Right. I'm totaling over 16, planning on over 17.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been, maybe not directly coached by you, but I have been influenced by you the entirety of my powerlifting career. I always come to you, until I got with Joe, I always came to you.
I wouldn't dare step on that guy's toes.
And that's fair.
I'm 100% anticipating to learn something from this.
Yeah, for sure. But no, all that time I came to you for my problems. I came to you when I had, when I wanted advice on programming, because eventually you taught me how to program and I started programming myself and that was just I felt like you were stressed out all the time and I didn't want to add more to your plate. So I was like, well, if you just teach me how to do it, I'll handle mine for a little while and kind of take away from you so that you didn't have to be stressed about it. But, heavily influenced by you, and all of my programming that I've ever done has also been heavily influenced by what you taught me, which trickles down from Brandon, which trickles down from Chad Wesley Smith. So there's a lot of people that, there's that trickle down. And obviously, there's other people I went to that I've constantly learned from, like Dr. Mike's. I watch all of the RP videos. Watch everything that Joe puts out. Watch everything that Mark Bell puts out. You know, there's a lot of different influences, but you are the biggest influence on my powerlifting career. So when I say I went from sub 1,000 to, you know, working on a 1,700 pound total, you know, that's a 700 pound difference in a total in a matter of, you know, maybe by the time it comes around to be 3.5 years. I'd say that's pretty big.
Right.
I'd say that matters a lot.
I would say I think that I can't speak for everybody in the state, but I know this for a fact about Ron. I know this for a fact about myself. I really do think that investment in an individual and actually genuinely caring about the person that you're programming for and handling on meet day or whatever, I think that's the biggest asset you can shop for in a coach.
Yeah, I would agree with that because, I mean, even before we even became friends, you walked up to me and you said, "Hey, you should join our powerlifting group." And it was just a Facebook group, you know, whatever. But I was like, I don't know anything about powerlifting. I just come to the gym because I want to look good and I want to be halfway athletic. I was 180 pounds at the time. You know, I was thin. I didn't know jack shit. I thought I knew something, but I realized very quickly that I didn't. But you know, that's just one of those things. Like
investment in an individual.
Mm-hmm.
That's doesn't have to be me. Doesn't have to be Ron. But whatever you're looking for in somebody, that's the number one. That's the number one green flag is the time they're willing to invest with, or red flag depending on. But that's the number one thing honestly to look for.
I've got a couple of more red flags, but one I specifically want to touch on. So someone that would not offer explanations as to why you're doing a movement. So if they got you, and I'm going to not name any names, but if they got you in the program doing Bulgarian split squats and they can't tell you why you're doing Bulgarian split squats, that's a big red flag. If they're giving you movements and just saying, well, it's a leg movement, come on. That's
we
weak.
need to know why. And really the answer should be you're fixing unilateral issues, imbalances, strength problems. I, for one, have a torn labrum in my right hip. Squats and split squats and lunges are really, really tough for me. So there's probably something I should be doing regularly.
Right.
But your coach should be able to say, I know that you have an imbalance there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why we're doing split squats.
Right.
You know, that's like, and if you don't have an imbalance there, the answer should be simply, we need you to have stronger legs individually.
Right.
This will do that. you know what I mean? Like,
and that's one of the things when you buy a template, you know, it's more generalized, so you may not be getting that specificity that you're looking for because of that. But if it's in the program on their template, and you know, maybe you ask them a question on Instagram or Facebook or where maybe you text them if you have their number or whatever, and they won't tell you a reason why it's in the program, and they just tell you to do it. That's just a red flag for me.
For sure.
Like I understand like from the coaching and the lifting aspect of just following through on what your coach says. But I know that if I ask Joe anything about the program, if I say, hey, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? He's going to tell me, oh, well, because this, and this.
Yeah.
Like, why are we doing 30 seconds work and followed by repetitions at a heavier weight? Well, and he told me and he didn't tell me specifically because I didn't ask, because I didn't really need to ask. But, you know, to focus on the drive, to focus on working when you're depleted, basically.
Yeah.
So, like, being able to grind, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're looking for when we do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and it's just easy to, like, go, like, when you have the coach, when you have the one-on-one coaching, which is better than having a template, but it's just like you just go to them and you just ask them a question, they can give you the answer.
Yeah.
And if you buy a template from somebody and you ask them a question about their template and they can't give you an answer, that's a red flag. If they can't give you an alternative, if something is preventing you from doing this, even if it's like you don't have access to something, like if you don't have access to a hack squat and it's there, or a leg press for some reason or whatever, and you need an alternative and they can't give you one,
they should be able to say, hey, you can do belt squats, or you can do, you know,
just
whatever the alternative.
Literally any alternative, just to help. If they can't do that for you, that's a red flag.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I don't want to buy a template from somebody who's going to tell me, oh well, I don't know. Like if I buy a template from you and I say, hey Zach, I can't do dumbbell bench press right now. Is there any alternative that I can do? And you tell me, I don't know, dude. Figure it out.
Right.
I'm not going to buy another template from you.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
But I know
understand.
I know that you're not going to do that.
I do think there's inherently like some things that find their way in a program that some coaches just believe in. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I believe in a bigger back and a bigger tricep. That's something. A bigger tricep is something I learned from Matt Winning because he was like, "You got shoulder problems. You got this bigger arm.
Yep.
You need bigger arms." It's like you want to bulletproof your shoulder. Allow your overhead press and your bench press to be more tricep dominant.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. So, I believe in those things. Like we're gonna have bigger quads. We're gonna have a bigger back. We're gonna have a bigger tricep.
Yeah.
Let's not say that we're not going to train biceps and hamstrings.
Mm-hmm.
We train the shit out of them because I definitely believe in a strong hamstring. But, there's just an inherent amount of things with individual coaches you're just going to have like built in.
Right.
If you come to me, your upper body work, you're going to have a lot of tricep.
Yeah.
Period. It just is what it is. I'm sure there's things with Joe. Joe probably, I know he had you warming up with like split squats or something one day. Obviously, Joe believes in that movement.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in that movement. There's reasons why they work, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to get individual, but I think to Nathan's point is you need somebody that can say, I understand and recognize the fact that because your injury history or because of whatever's going on with you right now, you cannot do a split squat. So let's do lunges instead, or let's do single leg press instead, or whatever. They should be able to offer you
alternatives
to whatever it is. Yeah. And like for me, I've had a history of like dumbbell skull crushers hurt my elbows. Well, that's fine. I can just do them on a barbell.
Right.
No elbow pain. I'm doing them on a barbell. Or Mark Bell special is like dumbbell skull crushers hurt my elbow, but if I do the rolling skull crushers, where I get a little kickback from the top of my shoulder, I can use a little heavier dumbbell and it takes pain out of my elbows. I can still do a skull crusher without it killing me. Like they should know that whatever it may be,
right.
the dumbbell bench press, right? Like you still need X amount of unilateral work. Like maybe we can do single arm presses on the cable, or maybe you just need to be doing cable flies, or whatever it may be, depending on where the injury's at. Like there's a million different things that you can do. Like you can move. We have, fortunately at Hartselle where we're at now, like can't do a dumbbell bench press. We can still get unilateral work on a chest press machine. Yeah. We have plate loaded machines. You can do one arm at a time, both of them at a time, whatever you need to do. Like there's workarounds for all of this stuff. So, it just is what it is. Hell, if you got just an outright injury and you can't press at all, somebody should be able to tell you how to. You're probably not going to improve your bench press in that moment, but they should be able to tell you how to maintain it.
Right.
Hey, you can't train your chest and your shoulders because you got a torn rotator cuff. Guess we're going to have the biggest arms in the room. Right. Let's go. It just is what it is. Like there's workarounds for all these things. So. Yeah.
And another one, and this kind of like pushes more into the bodybuilding realm, more than the powerlifting realm. But if you follow Goob U, which you should, because he's a good follow, he posts a lot of people who Photoshop their photos, who Photoshop their clients' photos. In the bodybuilding realm, that's a huge red flag. If they can't come to you and say, hey, this is my client as they are, come on. Like, yeah, absolutely. We need real before and afters and stuff like that. Like, it'd be harder to fake in the powerlifting realm. Yeah, because it's a strength thing. Like there's not a whole lot of faking your way around, like a 900-pound deadlift. There's just not. Yeah. But when it comes to bodybuilding specifically, and I guess this is just why this is kind of just in there because we do have bodybuilding listeners too. Yeah. That would be a red flag for me if I was going for, like, if I decided to do a show and I was going to get a bodybuilding coach, and I'll be honest, I'd probably go with Joe again, because he does do but he doesn't do a lot and he doesn't do it all the time, but he does do bodybuilding coaching. I'd probably go with him again, but he's not going to Photoshop his before and after pictures. He posted photos of himself. He's planning on getting on stage in 2024. And he's like, these are my weaknesses. Like, he points them out. He knows what he needs to work on. Yeah. And he's not Photoshopping them to make them look better. Right, he's like, I know I have weaknesses. I know where I have to bring these things up. So that's what I'm going to do. If you have a coach that's like Photoshopping people's waists in and making their lats out or whatever it may be, making their quads look bigger just to present it, to make it look like you're doing more than you are, I would not hire that person. I would not recommend anyone to hire that person.
Absolutely.
It's just, there's just, when a coach is going to lie to the general public, that's when
well, that probably means they're going to lie to their actual client.
exactly.
Yep.
So I would not go down that road.
It's because you're not measuring strength with a bodybuilding coach. There's probably a lot more room to just blow smoke up your client's ass and tell them that they're doing great.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the barbell telling on them.
Yep.
You know, you don't have, visual cues, other than the way they look. But you don't have near as many factors to look at and say, hey, this is not. Powerlifting coach can still see whether or not your body composition is better.
Right.
Or whether you put muscle on here or there or what have you. But in general, because they're not actually having to see you actually move weight, there's probably a lot more room for them to blow smoke up your ass about how great you're doing or how not great you're doing or whatever it may be. Whatever that trend may be. I mean, I can imagine there's probably a lot of people in that's just like, attaboy, you're doing great. Like, you're down 2 pounds. I wanted you to be down 5, but you're down. Down is down, baby. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like,
or maybe oh, well, you look more muscular, so that weight is probably just muscle, and whatever part of the frame
there's a lot more
they
like gray area that they can frame it in a way to make you feel give you a hard dick about yourself.
Yeah. Which ultimately leads to you losing your competition because your coach wasn't being honest with you.
Yeah.
So don't hire dishonest coaches. I think I had one more, and it's just kind of like a small thing, but and this will lead to a tangent by the end of it. But people who take sponsorships from products that they don't believe in is a red flag for me. So one thing that Joe does is he has a code. I guess he would be a sponsored athlete, but he goes through Better Through Biology, which I believe actually is Jakey B's company, but I'm not entirely sure. Or he may be actually part of it or something. But either way, he has a code through them. That's where he promotes Nectar, which is a carnitine and choline solution, which is perfectly legal, and it is also not going to show up on drug tests. So clean athletes can take it. But he believes in it, he supports it, and he pushes it. And I tried it on his recommendation, and I actually really enjoy it, other than post-injection pain is kind of brutal, and the injection pain is kind of brutal. But he explained that it's the injectable carnitine is just acidic. So when it enters into the muscle, it's just a little aggressive. So do be aware of that if you decide to go the route of Nectar. It is a little spicy when you inject it, and the pain afterwards, but it goes away pretty quickly. But other than that, the benefits of it have been really positive. The benefits of the choline were great because it helps you to learn new skills quicker, and the carnitine helps with recovery. He typically takes it in the morning he takes it in the morning and pre-workout. I only take it pre-workout. So I only take it like 4 times a week if I take it. Sometimes I don't, if I'm just like rushing around trying to get to the gym in time. But the benefits that I did notice was that I did feel like I could respond better to his coaching in the moment. And I would notice things more specifically when I was doing a movement while I took it. So specifically, I'll just talk about RDLs, like dumbbell RDLs. He had me doing abduction and hip abduction and RDLs. So I'd get on the machine, I'd do that, and then I'd do the RDLs. And I'm like, man, my back just hurts. Like, it's getting into my low back. I don't know why. And in the moment, I'd just be able to realize, oh, it's because I'm not engaging my hamstrings. I'm not engaging my glutes well enough. So I took what he told me with my squat and started pushing my knees out really hard, started doing the movement like that, and I could immediately feel it in my hamstrings. And that was just an instantaneous from set to set.
Yeah. And
I'm not saying that I wouldn't notice that eventually, but I do feel like taking the Nectar did help that in the moment thing. It just helped me realize it quicker.
Sure.
And made that mind-muscle connection that much faster. And as soon as I felt it in my hamstrings and my glutes, I was like, okay, I realize now that that's what I need to do. So I kept doing it that way, and everything turned out great. And I actually messaged Joe, and I was like, hey, I did this. is this what you're looking for in the movement? He said, absolutely, yes. This is what I'm trying to get you to do. Great. Everything worked out. Some people will just be on a brand because they pay them money.
Yeah.
And, sometimes this is kind of like a hard thing to distinguish sometimes, because you think about like anyone like let's say specifically Noel Bodybuilder, I forget his last name, but that Noel Bodybuilder on Instagram, he promotes Rise supplements. I've never taken it before, but it's pre-workout, protein, all the basic stuff. It's kind of hard to differentiate sometimes whether that's like a good product or a bad product, because it's very similar, very much all the same stuff. But when it gets into more specific stuff like what Joe is promoting, then you kind of like, okay, well, what is this stuff? Have I heard of this before? What's the benefits behind it? What's the reasoning behind it?
Sure.
I would say if someone who is sponsored by this stuff can't tell you why it's good, I would be hesitant about their...
Yeah, and we're not talking about necessarily pre-workout or something where like, because everybody's very individual. You're just talking about a rush of caffeine and beta-alanine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to tell you as a supplement store owner, they're all not that much different than the next. I mean, some are stronger than others, sure, and you might want something a little stronger, whatever. Some people might want something a little bit weaker, but like, at the end of the day, that kind of stuff probably is because they're just paying them money.
Yeah.
Protein powder, like, you can buy protein powder that mixes better than other protein powder, and that's definitely a benefit. But at the end of the day, in terms of the way your body treats it, protein powder is protein powder. Protein powder.
And I'm not saying this to shit on anybody, but MRE does not mix well with water. From Redcon 1, MRE from Redcon does not mix well with water.
Yeah.
The stuff that I got from you mixed way better.
I don't know what you got from me.
Allmax mixed way better. It was so much easier to drink.
Did you get an Allmax mass gainer from me?
No, it was just a whey.
Just a whey? Okay, yeah.
And that may be the difference.
That's something that's great about that product in particular, though. I have because I carry a lot of like boutique products, like most of them are going to mix really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like hell, I carry a mass gainer sometimes called Mass Chaser by Project AD. You can mix it. It's a mass gainer you can mix with like 8 ounces of water.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how thick and awful mass gainer is. So like some of those the boutique products is very, very hard to tell. If you're buying from your local supplement shop that's got more boutique brands and you're not buying from GNC or Walmart, each product is very, very similar, but they're all really high quality compared to like Muscle Milk or something like that. You know what I mean? So it just is what it is. Redcon, unfortunately, Redcon Bucked Up now probably skew more toward, they're more Muscle Milk and brand now than they are a boutique brand, unfortunately.
Yeah, they used to be really, really high quality stuff. It seems like their quality has dropped off lately. There's
a reason why I don't carry that stuff anymore, and it's just because it doesn't, first of all, it's not as high quality of a product, but it doesn't behoove me to compete against GNC and Walmart. Yeah. But like I said, I feel like there's a big quality drop. And I don't know if you know this, because me and you both have taken Total War for years. I don't take it anymore, but I took Total War for years. Like, love Total War. The Total War you buy from me versus the Total War you buy from Walmart, two completely different products.
Yeah.
Which is kind of shiesty, in my opinion, to be honest with you.
That's a little
so you have to be careful. And I would say, I feel like I see more of that from the bodybuilding community than I do from specifically what you're talking about. Like a bodybuilder just getting behind like a brand because
they're paying them.
Yeah. I know, Brian Shaw did that Redcon 1 for a little while. He's no longer a Redcon 1 athlete, though.
Oh, really?
I don't know. But I know that he did that for a little while, and he has his own line of supplements now. But outside of somebody like that, I feel like bodybuilding community is much more likely to jump behind a brand just to be part of the brand than they are. Which there's money in it, so I understand. I'm not really knocking the individual, but I think you're right. I think if somebody can't tell you
why they support
I can tell you what protein powders I take, and I can tell you that I only take them because they taste good and they mix well.
Yeah.
If you don't like them, that's fine. You know what I mean? It is. I don't really care. You know what I mean? But it just is what it is. I think that their ability to tell you why something is better is really good. When it comes to just straight up supplements, and you're not talking about aminos or peptides, like you were mentioning with Joe, just straight up supplements, you definitely need to take that with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, they are what they are.
Yeah.
All of them are kind of what they are. So have a lot of brands I like and I respect, but the good brands aren't that much different from each other, right. To be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anytime you're injecting something, if it's a peptide, injectable amino, even if you're still not going to your doctor to get gear, if you're still going, like, if you're still buying new GLs, you should definitely take that information with a grain of salt when it comes from somebody. That's stuff that could fuck you up for life. Yeah. If it's not mixed properly or, you know, whatever it may be, like, be real careful with that. Supplements are just, they are what they are. Yeah. I'll tell you a big gimmick that I've run across a lot of the time. I don't know if have you ever read the amino acid profile on protein powder? Has 100% of all the protein, all the BCAAs and EAAs you need. Like, but all those companies sell BCAAs independently. Unless you're a vegan or a vegetarian athlete, you probably do not need to supplement with BCAAs. Right. It's like 100% a fucking gimmick. You don't believe me? Lane Norton talks about this. Yeah. Like, this is something that comes up with a lot of people when it comes to nutrition. Like, if you're either eating enough meat or supplementing protein daily, there is no reason for a BCAA supplement other than the fact that it makes water taste better. And if you're not good about drinking your water without a flavoring in it, BCAAs are a great choice. But if you're not a vegetarian or a vegan, probably not a reason to be supplementing that. Right. You're wasting your fucking money.
And at that point,
that's a supplement store owner answer.
And at that point, you can probably just like buy some powder that you can mix. I forget the name of it, but I know there's several that mix with water that's like no calorie flavoring.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you don't necessarily need to buy BCAAs because that can be expensive.
Drinking protein.
Yeah. If it's just a water thing, there are other alternatives.
Yeah, most BCAA products, I think, because the internet's more aware that BCAAs are a scam. You have people like Lane talking about them and stuff like that. Most of the good ones that I sell now do have an electrolyte complex in them too, which has its own performance benefits, and they're not just BCAAs. All Max, for one, it's like a pseudo pre-workout and then it has caffeine in theirs. I carry another brand called DNM Nutra that has caffeine in their BCAAs. If you want something like that, you're real sensitive to pre-workout maybe, and you just need an in-betweener, you know, roughly the amount of caffeine of an energy drink. It's probably a great product for you. But if you're eating enough meat and you're supplementing protein regularly, there's no reason to buy a BCAA product. So.
Well, that was all I had. Do you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I think that we pretty much covered it. I think, you know, the biggest thing, ask yourself if you like the person or not too. Yeah. That matters.
It does matter because
even if they don't check some of the boxes we ask people to check, if the person's a nice person and you know that you can get along with them and you can get something done, and you communicate with them well, communication maybe is something we should have brought up, then you can probably get somewhere with them. Yeah. But you should probably be wary of, like you said, the coach that just lets you buy something and there's no communication ever again or anything like that. Like, even if it's just a customer service issue, like, hey, I can't do this, what can I sub it for? Like, they should be able to take the time. I'm a small business owner. I'm a very busy person, but I do a lot of work on my phone. I can take the time to answer a DM about what I can sub for dumbbell bench press. Right. You know what I mean? So be wary of that.
Yeah. Just of all the things, like you said, getting along with a person is also a very important thing. And I can say, I've always gotten along with you really well when you were coaching me. I get along pretty well with Joe. Just talking to him here and there. I know he's a busy person, so I don't just try and chat with him all, just like to small talk because he's a busy person.
Pretty much to the point. Yeah.
But we have had like little brief conversations outside of the lifting realm, and they were positive, they were good, and I feel like if I was in a room with him, I could just have a conversation with him. And that is important, because if you can't communicate with your coach, if you don't feel comfortable communicating with your coach, you're not going to be able to tell him all the things that are going wrong, all the things that are negatively affecting you, and that's going to lead to poor coaching. That's more on the one-on-one than the buying a program. But that, if you can't communicate with an individual specifically, or you're afraid to communicate with an individual for whatever reason, that would also limit your ability to get alternatives to a template.
Yeah, absolutely. I know some of the better templates I bought, like RP, for example. I've bought several RP templates. They had drop-down menus. So if you couldn't do dumbbell bench press, You click the drop down on the spreadsheet, and they gave you 6 alternatives to the dumbbell bench press that day. Maybe that's, if you're going to buy a template, maybe look at somebody a little higher end, like RP, somebody like that. I know that when I start building templates, me and Sandy are about to start working very, very hard to make ours really professional and have drop down menus for stuff like that. Barbell stuff will be hard numbers. You won't be able to swap back squat for front squat or back squat for hack squat or something like that. Because it's a powerlifting template.
Right.
It's going to be sport specific. But, for accessory work, if you can't do split squats, maybe you can do like assisted lunges or something like that. Hell, I did assisted lunges last night. You know what I mean? Like fucking dowel rod, fucking like a cane. Like I have that tear in my hip. Like they're hard for me to do unless I've trained them regularly. So like, stuff like that you can probably still do, but we're working really, really hard to provide those options. So maybe just shop for a higher end template. Yeah. And if for a higher end template, I'd very, very seriously consider, even if you're a power lifter, if you're in the off season, I'd very, very seriously consider RP templates. Yeah. No, for flexibility and stuff like that.
One of the things I spoke to Joe about was off-season stuff should be more bodybuilding stuff. Yeah, like we should be trying to build more muscle fibers. We should be trying to, on our off-season, we shouldn't be destroying our CNS the whole time.
That's something I've learned the hard way. Yeah. Like, listen, I'm in off-season now, largely doing RP stuff. They give you the option to do drop sets or even like upsets if you want to. Like a lot of times to start my workout, I'll work up to a heavy single before I drop down and do but it's a daily heavy single. Like I'm not frying my CNS. Like, it'll be like, it's probably like an RPE 6 or 7 single. Yeah. Just kind of stay fine tuned. And then I'll do drop sets to whatever was prescribed to me or whatever. There's like some leeway and stuff like that. Like at the end of the day, I'm still a power lifter. Like I want to touch heavy weight, right? It's boring for me not to. I've had a knee issue, so volumes hurt me. So I've had to modify a little bit. Like yesterday in particular, I couldn't hit my volume on my squats, so I hit heavy Paul squat singles until I couldn't anymore. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be some that comes with age and understanding what you can and can't do though. Like, but I mean, RP in general, just having the option to cut an exercise, sub an exercise, whatever you do based on the way you feel every day. I would say if you're looking for a template, if you're that shopper, RP is probably what I'd go with. Yeah. And I'll be honest, even RP's, even though it's probably dubbed off season, I think you could probably make pretty good gains even on season using RP for powerlifting, to be honest with you. I mean, because they're going to let you check your exercises, so you can it's still progressive overload. Like you can still check your back squat, and next week's back squat's going to be heavier than this week's. And like, it's very linear. So you're not going to get a lot of you're not going to get any undulating or anything like that out of it. But if you're just looking for a template, that's probably as good as you can get. Yeah. Powerlifter or bodybuilder.
So at the end of the day, templates probably best used for newcomers, people who aren't looking for a lot of personalization, who just want overall strength gains. But when you get to a certain level, you do want to start looking more into the one-on-one coaching because you need that specificity to you as opposed to just a general strength program. Yeah, because you will have developed your own strengths and your own weaknesses, and you need a coach to point those out for you.
Absolutely. And if you're still not going to do that, again, I would do the higher end template or even an AI if you're not going to pay for one-on-one. Yep. As much as we've criticized Juggernaut AI pretty good because we've both used it, had a lot of people around us that's used it, but it's still probably better programming than somebody just fucking guessing at it, and probably still better programming than most templates. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend a higher end template like RP or an AI if you're looking in the realm of not being one-on-one coach. So
yeah, just be wary of buying the template from the guy who's 190 pounds and quote unquote shredded.
Yeah, just because he has abs and pictures doesn't mean he's a fucking strong person.
Or that he's knowledgeable enough to train you to get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not knocking smaller guys or anything like that, but you should just take everything you see in the fitness industry, even what you listen to on this podcast, everything should be taken with a grain of salt. Yeah. So
that being said, we do try to provide a pretty neutral ground on everything. Yeah. I personally feel like we do pretty well. We do have our own bias. Yeah. Every person, every human has their own bias, but I feel like at the end of the day, our goal is to get information out that is helpful. So.
I will say this, and this is somewhat of a personal bias for me, but I've ran into it in my own lifters jumping from other local coaches to me as their coach, beginner, intermediate, even upper middle, intermediate, even maybe lower level advanced, most of us need practice because at the end of the day, we're developing a skill.
Mm-hmm.
I would very, very much judge templates or even one-on-one coaching based on frequency of lifts.
Mm-hmm.
Me and you are both to a point that you're probably to a point you can do a one-time a week frequency on a lot of things. I'm still about a one-time a week frequency on deadlifts to about a 1.5, really about a 1.5. But I still really benefit well from a 2 time a week frequency on squat in particular. Bench press, I'm probably more 1.5 too because I'm a better bench presser than I'm a squatter. But by and large, if you're a beginner, you need practice. So I'd probably stray away from the 1 time a week leg day person.
Yeah.
Because you probably need to be hitting a glute and ham focused day and a quad focused day, and you need to be squatting and deadlifting probably both days, a variation of one or the other. It doesn't have to be the competition lifts.
Right.
But I would probably look at frequency seriously, and I don't know how we managed to miss that.
Yeah.
I would be very seriously considering frequency as a determining factor as to whether or not I bought a template.
Right.
Because if you were beginner, novice, intermediate, lower level advanced, you probably are going to need a higher frequency than Nathan does.
I guess the problem with the buying of the template is you don't really know what you're buying until you buy it.
No, but you can read reviews and stuff.
You can read reviews.
You can kind of determine it on your own. I mean, even like I've had powerlifters that can only do a 3 day a week split.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it looks odd, but a lot of the times what we do on that is we do a squat and bench variation. Day 1, day 2 is an overhead press and a deadlift variation. Day 3 is going to be another squat and bench variation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's ways to do it even if on as little as 3 days a week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would just be wary of what you're buying.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, reviews will take you a long ways. Everybody's on Instagram or Facebook or something. There's groups for all that on Facebook now. Ask other people in groups that you're a part of. Ask people you follow on Instagram that very obviously are using one of these templates or one of these AIs. Get their input on it and find out exactly what it's going to be like.
Yeah, so. And also just because it works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So
absolutely.
just take that into consideration.
Yeah.
I would obviously it'd be kind of hard to find someone who is exactly in the same place as you, exactly the same body build as you, and ask them specifically that has also bought this program that you're looking at and asking them their opinion. That is the ideal goal, but like, at least a roundabout idea. Like how advanced are they? Like where are they at? Weight-wise, body composition-wise. Sure. Check some of those boxes when you ask these people about it.
Depending on your level of athlete, this changes a whole lot. But I would on top of frequency, I'd very seriously consider volume because you have to be pretty advanced for more volume to not be a negative thing.
Yeah.
You're only just now experiencing, and me on certain things, just now experiencing too much volume as being a thing.
Yeah.
And now you've gone back to Joe where you've got warm-ups that are more volume than you've done in a whole workout before.
Yeah.
So like very, very seldom, if you're really serious about getting good, is volume a negative thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're on the program we mentioned at the beginning by a prominent powerlifter, that volume was way too low for the people he was selling that template for.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably perfect for him.
Yeah.
But way too low for somebody that is just starting out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's the thing. A lot of these new people are coming to this guy because he's like, oh, he's super strong. How do I get super strong?
Most people don't have a 550-pound RDL.
Yeah.
RDLs 1 time a week is not going to work for somebody that only RDLs 225.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so you probably need to look at those kind of things. Yeah. So just be wary of that. And that's going to change depending on weight class and age of the lifter. Like when I say lifting age, not necessarily,
actual age.
Not actual age necessarily.
Yeah. And that's one thing, like if they have multiple programs on, like if they have a website and they have multiple programs for beginning, intermediate, advanced, that would be a green flag because it's like, okay, they have it set up. They know the difference between what a starting lifter needs and what an advanced lifter needs.
I can imagine that you've probably done some of this with Joe, and I know you were getting to some of this yourself. I haven't seen so much a reduction. I don't necessarily talk a reduction in volume, but maybe a reduction in total volume, but almost higher quality volume. Does that make sense? Like when Ron programmed me 3 sets of 12 on face pulls, Well, that's not like RP or some bodybuilding programs I did where I would have 5 or 6 sets.
Mm-hmm.
If I only got 3 sets, I know I got to go ham on 3 sets. To get the same muscle breakdown I get out of 4 or 5, like 3 sets, I got to make it fucking count.
Yeah.
Like, those are the things you look for when you're more advanced is the quality of the high volume. But really, I'm telling you, in the beginning, volume hardly ever is an issue.
Yeah.
You know, within reason. You shouldn't be doing 10 sets of 20 on everything you do.
Right.
But you know what I mean?
You should not be able to move. You should not be bedridden after a workout.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's got MEV, MRV, and stuff like that. But listen, at the end of the day, you're practicing your craft. If you end up, you know, if you're a lighter weight lifter, if you're female or a lighter weight lifter, there's a lot of times those lifters mine get 4 and 5 sets of squats and deadlifts. Me and you, if I program for you right now, you might have 1 set or 2 sets of deadlifts, you know, depending on, you know, you might have a drop set afterwards, but your actual working set, you're not going to do 3, 4, 5 of. But there's definitely a time and a place for somebody to be. I myself right now, pretty advanced level lifter, especially compared to the gym crowd, and I'm doing 5 and 6 sets of squats right now. Is that going to work for me during prep? No, but I'm not in prep. So, you know, all those things have to be considered, man. And like I said, volume very rarely is an issue. The only thing I have to say is that as you get better, your perspective on volume shifts.
Right.
Me and you can take 3 sets to an RPE of 9 or 10 and be confident in the fact that we went to failure. Most beginning lifters do not know what failure is yet.
Yeah.
So maybe more volume benefits them a little bit. So things to consider in terms of a template too.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well.
Dad jokes?
Dad jokes.
I don't know if I didn't prepare for this.
I saved several, and I will find them because I saved them on Instagram, and if Instagram would cooperate with me, there we go.
We're already turning people on. Logan Leverett, you're such a good dude. We're already turning people on to our Spotify list here.
Oops. Account. Somehow I signed into the Sip It and Rip It account instead of my personal account.
Dad jokes. we always go into Dad Says Jokes. That's it again, isn't it?
I saved several that were not, if I can find them. Okay, so this is it's not super long, but it's longer than the normal. But my son told me he learned that octopuses can climb through small cracks, so he's scared to swim in the ocean because an octopus might climb inside his butt. And now I'm scared of the ocean too.
Yeah, you know, I think Kristen posted that one. And I cracked up about that one so good. Me and you were about to live this life because I know absolutely getting my jaws wrapped over this one when I was a kid. Like not wanting what mom cooked for dinner or what dad was picking up for dinner. Like got me in all kind of shit. But Dad asked, would you like anything to eat for dinner? Son says, what are my choices? And Dad says, yes or no.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be a spoiled little shit.
So do you know what group of people never get angry?
What's that?
Nomads.
That's pretty great. I told the nurse I was bitten by a wolf. Where, she asked? I said, no, regular.
Did you hear the joke I told about the footwear of a guy with 1 foot?
What?
It was a flop.
Your veterinarian is not going to tell you this, but if your dog is running a fever, go to the store and buy some mustard. It's the best thing for a hot dog. I would disagree, but I'm a weirdo and I eat mayo and ketchup on my hot dogs.
I like mustard and relish.
Okay, so first of all, I don't turn my nose about like if I'm doing like a Chicago dog. Yeah, I like relish and mustard, everything but the tomato.
Yeah.
The celery, salt, poppy seed bun, the whole 9. Well, that's pretty fucking good. I'll eat mustard in that circumstance. Most of the time, I don't reach for the mustard first, though.
So, funny enough, Joe Sullivan got a question today. I was just going through his story.
Mustard comes up in his story all the time.
It does. And someone asked him, what's the deal with mustard? Is it anabolic or what? And he was like, no, it's not anabolic. It just has 0 calories and tastes good. Apparently, and I vaguely remember this. Apparently, there was some story on either his or Bree's Instagram of him putting mustard on a Pop-Tart and eating it.
It is what it is, I guess.
I fucking nope.
Nope, that's a big no.
I don't care.
I will say this. Theoretically, everybody's heard mustard will get rid of cramps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically, because of the salt and the potassium content, it could have, while albeit low, it could have performance-enhancing benefits. By the nature of what it is. That's all I'm saying. I mean, you might have to drink a whole bottle of mustard to see those benefits, but like, you know, I've cramped. I remember Brandon Allen programs where I was like week 1 coming off into a new block where my hamstrings and quads would cramp so bad after a set of squats that I couldn't fucking move. And I bet you I would have drank a fucking bottle of mustard. Anybody's willing to try, will it pre-workout? A bottle of mustard. Let us know.
a whole bottle of mustard. I feel like if it helps with cramps, though, that's not going to be something that you want to take before your workout, but after.
It could prevent them if you take it before, because I mean it's electrolytes, salt and potassium, both electrolytes. So this makes sense.
Mix it in. With
anybody that wants to just try it, and maybe even if you got to like inch it up to find the threshold, maybe it's not a whole bottle of mustard, or maybe it's not a whole jar of pickle juice, but like if there's like a threshold. If y'all want to experiment with that and let us know, we'd be willing to listen.
Mix up some pickle juice and mustard and a little scoop of BCAAs or something.
No, some
maybe
creatine.
some Gatorade powder. You know, just something. You know, just mix it all up together. Tell us how that experience goes. We'll
film it if you can, and we'll repost it.
We will definitely repost it. If there's anybody lacking sanity out there.
You know who listens every week? Braxton Miller. Braxton, you're a great guy. I talked you up pretty good last week, buddy. When you listen to this, pre-workout, you got to try the mustard for us and just let us know if there's any performance-enhancing benefits to mustard prior to your workout. And I think it may take a few times. You might have to figure out how to get the dose correct to feel a difference. But just let us know. Experiment with the mustard, my friend. That's your homework for the week.
We will repost it, and
our one person that listens every week.
No, there's a few. There's a few. Kevin Heatherly listens to it all the time.
Thanks, Kevin.
And I
know Anthony listens to it regularly.
Anthony, I don't know if he listens to it every episode. But
by the way, he did start my programming this week, and God, he worked out with me and Sandy last night. And God damn, that kid's strong.
He's very strong. He posted, or he sent me, I don't know if he posted his 405 for 3 sets of 3.
Yeah.
Pretty ridiculous.
On a Zercher now. We're not talking about a back squat.
No, this
guy is holding on to it with his biceps.
Yep. Stuff that would tear a normal person's arms off. Like, there would be no holding it.
I'm ready for him to hit that Zercher squat so we can be more power to him. I'm happy he's got that goal. But I'm ready for him to hit that Zercher squat so that we can...
move into powerlifting,
because I really do think that kid. I think that kid's going to total 1,800 pounds with me. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you.
No, I definitely think.
I think he might have, other than you, he might have the greatest 2K potential of any of us at the moment.
Now let me ask you this, because I actually talked to him about this. What weight class do you think should fit his frame?
He may not want to be this big, but 275 or 308.
I told him 275. He said he wanted to be 242 or 220. And I was like, you do not want to be 220.
No, first of all, in Alabama, you're going to get your ass drug at 220 or 242. Yeah. Like the sweet spot really is, if you want to be like one of the strongest guys in the state, 275 or 308 isn't necessarily up for the taking because you have to do a tank.
Yeah, tank is strong.
Definitely for his potential, 275 or 308.
I said 242 to 275 because he does say he feels a little better, a little lighter. I said 275 would fill your frame out a lot better because you're already naturally big.
I'll tell you what would be a great experiment for him. First meet be SPF and go 259.
Yeah.
Find out.
Sense. That makes sense.
You know what I mean? I'll be honest with you. He is too tall and too broad to be at 242.
That's fair. He's a little bit taller than me, but he is very broad.
I think it's a video I saw Joe post a long time ago talking about like what weight class you need to be for your frame.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be very surprised if a professional didn't tell him
275 or heavier.
Or 308.
Yeah.
I know Brandon told me specifically, he's like, if you ever want to make noise in this, like if you ever want to actually be good, you're going to have to be a 308 or a super heavyweight. I personally don't want to make that sacrifice.
Yeah.
And Anthony might not either, but like when you're 6 foot plus and you have 3 foot shoulders, you're going to look a little weird in 242. That's all I'm saying. You're going to be a fucking beanpole in 242. So
that's why I said for him, he would have to water cut to 242 and walk around in the 250s.
all day. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Best case scenario.
His training weight would have to be because
meet day weight's going to have to be in the 250s.
Yeah.
Because there's no way he survives 240 at a genuine 242.
No, that is simply a weigh-in goal.
Yeah.
But
I honestly think that he's a 275.
That's what I said.
But here's the thing: I think he can have both.
Mm-hmm.
Like he needs to recomp inside of the 275 weight class.
It
might mean him losing to 242 and regaining.
Yeah.
But he needs to recomp into 275.
Yeah. I would also agree. Like
that could be a whole nother podcast.
Hey, we just came up with a.
I mean, but you've done that, and honestly, since you did your cut to 200, you have been stronger than you have ever been.
Stronger, heavier.
You're heavier, but you look the same as you did at 200 right now, and you're 40 pounds heavier.
I wouldn't say that. My stomach was much smaller.
Well, what I'm saying is like just visually, just standing
like
here
my
now,
frame, like
you don't look like the same. The last time you were in the 240s. You look much leaner than you did the last time you were in the 240s. And you're a lean guy anyway. You wasn't fat by no means in 240s, but you look like a healthier 240 than you were the last time.
No, definitely. I definitely think the cut was good.
And strength kind of went fucking crazy for a little while before you got with Joe. Like, when you started putting that weight back on, it went kind of fucking nuts.
It definitely did. And
a recomp does a lot for people.
Yeah, it made a big difference. And I explained that to him too. I said, if you did cut down, you'd want to gain that way back up. And I explained to him when I went from 200, because when I cut to 200, I was closer to 230. I was in the 230, the mid 230s. And then when I gained my weight back up, I got all the way up to 250.
Yeah.
So like that, obviously that cut enabled me to put more weight on. So I cut down, I kept my muscle mass. And when I ate food again, I just blew up again.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that I can get somewhere. I don't necessarily think I want to be in the 275s competing, but I do think I can get to a point where I can maximize a 242 frame.
Yeah.
And that's the end goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And my goal, short term, or even long term, though, is to maximize 275.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, if you're talking about maximizing a weight class, you're going to have to cut in bulk. And we've talked about that before. That could be a whole nother podcast, too. Yeah. But, man, but want to talk about is back to the original point. That's another thing that a coach should help guide you through. They should be able to identify, hey, you're a big dude. You need to be this weight class, and you need to be the healthiest you can be inside that weight class. Yeah. Joe's honestly a perfect example of that, man. He's about as yoked as a 220 can be.
Oh yeah, I think he walks around at 240.
Look at John Hack since he's been bigger. There ain't nothing but muscle on that fucking guy. Like, he started out at a really healthy body weight at like 181, but I mean, he's been able to maximize his frame to 220 easily because of diet, and everything else. I mean, he's definitely taken advantage of that completely. Probably less so, or at least in a less smart way. You think about like Larry Wills back in the day when he was still competing. Like, these guys are extremely, extremely lean and extremely healthy body composition for their weight classes.
Yeah.
Even when Larry went to 308 and broke all the records as a light 308 at 286, I think, like broke all of Lilla Ridge's records. Like, that guy was still an extremely, extremely healthy frame.
Right.
Like, that pays. Like, a coach should be able to tell you those things too. And I hope to know, as a coach, I hope to know more about how to manipulate that stuff. Yeah. So, another rant for another day. So thank you guys for listening. If you made it this long, we appreciate you. All three of you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify if you haven't already. Download the episodes. It helps us out. You don't have to keep them downloaded, but just download them one time. That works for us. And we are also on Apple. If you, for some reason, are listening on Apple.
Even as an Apple user, I use Spotify. I had a hard time finding it on Apple.
Yeah. I feel like Spotify is just the place to go. I've wondered if I should stop paying RSS to put us on all these platforms and just do Spotify because I cannot pay.
There's some new podcast platforms we should discuss too. I think that the other nerds in the state is doing our competitors.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Competitors. I don't know if we want to touch on that or not.
Maybe we should have them on and do a joint podcast.
That would be interesting. We'd have to figure something out because this room is not big enough for 5 people.
Maybe we're gonna have to be like, "Hey man, start bench cut." Like, your lineup because we're staying.
I mean, I definitely feel like we can fit 4 people.
Yeah, we can do 4.
5 is pushing it. 5 is pushing it. I don't know. I'm looking
Maybe
around.
We should reach out for them. We also got, I'll tell you this, and I won't say much more. Nathan doesn't know this either, but We just got an interesting proposition from a strongman group out of the state of Mississippi. So maybe we could start endorsing some or sponsoring some lifting events. Might help us get out there a little bit. Who knows? Y'all give us ideas.
I didn't know anything about it. We'll have to talk about that later.
I just read the message.
Oh, word. All right.
When I was posting all that stuff to all the PR songs earlier, it was the first time I saw those messages.
Oh, man.
Yep.
That's interesting. Well, we'll let you guys know as things develop then.
We finished it.
We did. And now I got to pee.
Same.